All right, we're back with the group from Aspire Software, Tabitha, Mark, and Chris. Kind of phase two of the podcast interview here. So the first part was very informative. So thank you for that. And I guess what we want to do now is take a little more of a demo of kind of the website and let Tabitha kind of walk us through. I'm sure I'll ask some stupid questions, so I apologize in advance, Tabitha. But go ahead and hit us up with the demo.
All right, sounds good. Yeah. So sharing my screen here. This is Aspire, and it is built in the cloud. And when you first log in, you're at your home screen. We'll kind of touch a few different areas, but I like to start with the navigation pane because in the first session, we were talking about the Aspire wheel, and this navigation pane to me really brings it home. This is where you're going to set up user roles. So it's really your workflow, but also not everyone in the company is going to be able to see everything, right? It's going to be user specific. So let's say you're responsible for invoicing. Maybe you see invoicing, but not scheduling. Or maybe you can see the schedule, but you can't make any changes to it. And it's all going to stem from our property. So that is the building, the facility that you're actually performing the work at. And it's going to be kind of like your old school file folder. It's going to have your address, all of your estimating, any specific, tasks that you need to perform while you're there, all of the notes, security information that you need to pass along to the cleaners while they're there. From that property level, you will be creating that estimate in Aspire. We're going to call that an opportunity. It's your opportunity to earn revenue. And once your client actually signs off on that opportunity, then we become a work ticket management system. So all of those materials that you need are going to set in our purchasing assistant. The services that you're ready to perform are going to set in a queue in our scheduling area so you can get them scheduled and communicate that to your cleaner through our mobile device. Depending on the invoice type, it will trigger in our invoicing assistant at the appropriate time. And then again, because you're doing all of your operations in one system, then you're going to have real-time data and reporting.
Now, the integration
we're going to kind of pop in and out of a few of these areas, but
sure. Going to a property, for example, just if you have a mock-up of that, so you can have unlimited properties. A property could be, I'm saying you could have multiple clients within a property as well, or is that correct? So I know a lot of our BSCs that I've worked with over the years, they land the big building, then they have 20 other small clients within that building. So the flexibility there.
Yeah, you do have flexibility. We have like a parent-child relationship between a property and the company that you might be actually servicing. So I'm going to jump into a property here. I'm using my quick search to get there. There's several different ways you can get into the properties throughout Aspire, but at this property record, now I'm able to see the address, the internal account owner, who my primary contact is, especially when you're thinking of your property management companies. The property management company in my fake demo here is going to be Acme. And if I wanted to drill in to Acme, now I can see all of the buildings or those properties that I service for them. I can understand the contacts. Some might be customers, some might just be prospects. I can see all of the upcoming visits that I already have scheduled, what date that they're scheduled for, what type of service that we're actually going to be performing while we're there. You can see a few other things here on the list as well. We've got a three-way communication tool that we call issues. And then you have an understanding of what your invoiced and earned revenue is for the entire property management company rather than just this individual building.
So all this communication going on right now, this is great. I'm looking at it from a CRM standpoint, the speed, Mark, with COVID especially, the people who got their name out there and had the contacts that they said, hey, we do these following additional services because something else popped up. When I say one, they generate some nice income. But what do you see out there like right now, like the clients you're talking to, the prospects you're talking to, all of this communication from the top to the field level to the managers? How do you see that? How is that transpiring right now? How is that just all emails back and forth, texts here and there? Is it just a hodgepodge, going back to your Frankenstein analogy? Is that what you're seeing out there? Just a hodgepodge of approaches that are not consistent and not scalable? Is that safe to say?
Yes, sir. It really is. You see a lot of the paper trail, Post-it notes, internal communications. The one thing that those types of processes lack is the ability to track the data in real time and put it together in a consistent format that has visibility across the company itself. So taking a lead with the quick search that Tabitha did, or our quick menu, and being able to log a call, log an email, having the ability to follow up on those items are really pivotal in the industry. You know, with the way it's changed in the last several years, there's so much opportunity for upselling on contracts for disinfection services, as an example. But how are you tracking those leads, and what processes or methods are you putting around those leads to metric them in or metric them out of your business to make sure it's profitable work and it's the right type of work? So having a consistent platform that provides data continuity to do that would be pivotal for anybody.
Yeah, and allow people to take a vacation, right? I don't,
Yeah.
it's all here, so I don't have to worry. You know, if I'm taking a vacation and something needs followed up on, and it's a task or an issue, that three-way communication that we have assigned to me, I can just say, hey, Mark, you know, you're going to help cover. I assign it to Mark before I leave, and now Mark's in the thread of the information. He's able to respond. So when I get back, I can see what's going on.
Well, you see a lot of absentee owners within a lot of good companies. You know, when I say absentee owners, they're not working. I mean, they're working, but they're not physically at work every single day. They could, you know, there's a large population of owners down in Florida that's where they operate out of, you know, 6 months out of the year. And I don't fault them if they can do it, but I'm just looking at this thing going, that 6 months might turn to 12 months if, you know, they jump on this bandwagon. Cause I think everything you need here is here. And again, kind of unplug from email somewhat, unplug from phone calls where you can, but you've got the navigation bar, you got the navigation kind of GPS, if you will, of your company right here and now. So I love it. What other components would you like to touch on?
Jack, real quick to touch on that, because I think that's a great point with a lot of the owners, and it's not everyone's end goal, but some owners are ultimately their end game is to sell their business, and the visibility of having all that information, all that data makes it a whole lot easier to prove what your true worth is when you have all these numbers in here and you're not going through a bunch of filing cabinets searching for, you know, contracts and trying to do it. You can very easily pull up a P&L and show exactly what you're doing here in Aspire, and that makes you much more valuable.
And I got to imagine you can look at things, and again, we all make bad decisions occasionally, you know, maybe less good decisions would be a better way to say it. But as you see these trends, like we made a bad decision here, let's make sure we don't duplicate that. So you have the ability to go in there and kind of share that knowledge through the estimate tool or through just kind of how you go about certain practices moving forward. That process, I guess, improves because you learn something and go, we could have made 10% more if we would have done this, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, how often do you still see people in this industry wanting to use a string mop over a flat mop when they're laying floor finish? It's just, there's a lot of practices that are just dated. And what we found with this, especially when you talk about streamlining practices, you could have 5 different people from the same company go give an estimate at Class A office building, and you're getting a different number every time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And this system eliminates it altogether, correct?
If you're utilizing the estimation properly based off of your production factors, it should eliminate that for you.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we'll touch on a few other areas. You know, we've talked about the profitability, that visibility. You know, on this property itself, I can see my earned revenue. And again, everything in blue is drillable. So if I wanted to see a P&L for the rolling 12 months for this property, I can just dial into it. And now I can see if I'm doing different type of division work or class work, sometimes is what it's called in QuickBooks. But now I can have that understanding. So I can start from there. I can also see, you know, my account balance and understanding, because you're both invoicing and collecting out of Aspire. So if they owe you anything, maybe as a salesperson, I don't want to keep continuing to offer up work if they're not paying their bill, right? So a lot of different types of visibility. In our kind of like the admin, the edit property area here, there's also different fields. So when you're thinking of running reports or lists, all of these fields are available in our reports or those lists. So you know, you're really setting this up. You're putting your property notes. It's going to go down into the ops notes into your cleaners. Maybe it's a property note of just something, you know, you want to remember about the property manager. Maybe it's even just like their husband's name or their wife's name. So you have those little touch points and you don't forget. It's all here. If you're tracking something on your spreadsheets that Aspire doesn't have at the property level, we also have custom fields. So when you're thinking of some of the larger commercial properties, now they're requesting, hey, not only do you need to email me this invoice once you finish the work, you actually have to upload it into a portal. And that's how you're going to get paid. So these custom fields will go into our invoicing assistant, and maybe it can just help you remember some of the different portals that you have to submit those invoices in. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use these custom fields.
Nice. So dive in a little bit to the estimation piece really appeals to me, because I think you guys are on something there. Processes, that's something, that's a dime a dozen probably within, I wouldn't say a dime a dozen, but that's within a lot of companies out there. But the estimating tool, tying that into the processes, the range, like you said earlier, Chris, the range of people quoting situations or opportunities is mind-boggling. And again, you could have swings of 30 to 50% in some cases, I've got to imagine. But how do you guys really dial that in to kind of, is it a key team making a decision on, hey, this is kind of the time studies we're going to use, this is the equipment we're going to use? Are you plugging that level of detail into estimations?
You are, yeah. So it's all your information, and the system's really flexible. So this middle area here, this is our opportunities. So I can see these are my past estimates. I've won all of this, so I can understand, where I was before. If I'm going to be doing the same job again, I can copy this estimate and just resend it back out. So I don't have to start from scratch. So that's one benefit of having it in here, as well as if you're doing similar work, you don't have to start from scratch. But you can also create templates within Aspire. So for each of the different type of work that you might offer, we have a contract or a work order. And contract is going to be for all of your recurring type of services, your light duty services that you might be going to 5 days a week. Where a work order is really going to be more of your one-time services that you're not contracted for. You're pressure washing this today, and you might not do that again for another year. Oh. So within the system, you'll set up what are your common services? What's your common scope of work? What's your lingo for your terms and conditions? So I've got some examples here. I'll just show you a floor care work order as one example. So I'm using this template, certain information's pre-populated for me. I have all of these different fields, but this proposal description one, by using my template, I have my normal scope of work if I'm doing a floor care clean. I also have a proposal description too, and these are my terms and conditions. In both of these areas, we have things like merge field tokens. So my property name, the address, all that information, when this becomes a client-facing proposal, it's going to automatically fill out for me.
Can customers actually execute that contract electronically, or is that just producing a paper-based version of it?
They can. They can sign off on it through email. If you decide to send them an email, they can sign it electronically through that, and then you would receive an email back that it was signed, and then that signature would be on file here in Aspire. Nice. They could also sign it through the client portal as well. So haven't really talked much about that, but we do have a client portal.
So we go through the point, we get the account, or we know the account, we know the contacts, we do the estimates. You basically at that point, you're looking at scheduling, we get the award, you're looking to schedule that. Now I'm understanding that there's an app tied to this as well, or there's some kind of device for mobile. So you have a team of 100 to a team of 1,000. They all have access, and they all have rights to see certain things depending on their function or their role. Is that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So before we jump into the schedule board, just to kind of understand how the information gets there, is, we're still using this template, and often when I'm doing floor care work, I might be doing strip and reseal, or I might be doing carpet cleaning. So what we have in Aspire is a 3-level hierarchy of estimating. So where you're performing the work, the first level is purely organizational. The second is the service you're actually performing. And then underneath that, that's going to be, your square footage amounts, your labor hours, the materials that you need while you're there.
Nice.
So I had already measured this building, so I understood my square footage. So now that I've went and used this template and I have my square footage in there, it's using my own production factors, that work loading, to tell me how many hours it's actually going to take. Now, each of these services are going to turn into those work tickets that's set in my schedule board. So we'll hop over to my
So
scheduling.
let me throw a little curveball at you. Now, let me ask
Okay.
you this. I think this would be beautiful, and this may be future functionality. Maybe you could do it today, but so we as a company come up and say, we know for hard floor care, we're doing a strip and recode or strip and finish. This is what it should cost us per whatever it may be, FTE, man hour, hour, square footage. Do you have the ability over time to benchmark and say, are we hitting our goals? And if we're not, we need to go back to that estimate tool and increase whatever it may be. Do you have that kind of, this is what we think it costs, based on your scheduling start end time? Do you have the ability to kind of measure those two to see if you're hitting metrics?
Yeah, so once it turns into the service on the work ticket, and we'll kind of look at the schedule board, there's a lot of reports you can run from estimated versus actual hours. And there's even a visual here on our schedule board. We call it a job status bar, that it's going to be in red if you went over the amount of hours, and green if you stayed under. So now you're going to be able to analyze, well, I'm always going over when I'm doing my strip and reseal. Maybe I need to adjust those production factors. We need to look into that.
That's huge. That is huge. That's alone its price in gold right there. Yes. I love it.
Yeah, and you can even look at it just from a crew standpoint too. So if it's a crew that's underperforming on your production factors, you can either coach them up and figure out where they're missing it and why they're not meeting it. But the visibility is amazing.
Goes back to if you can't measure, right? Can't measure, how do you manage it? You can't measure, you manage it. So alone, this piece right here is phenomenal. So thank you.
Yeah. One of the consultants that we work with frequently, he always says, good managers make good decisions with good data.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. And if you don't have that data, you can't make that good decision.
So I'm Jim Smith or Sally Smith out in the field. All of a sudden I'm getting pings. Is my calendar being laid out in front of me and saying, hey, this is kind of what we have you assigned to do? And whether it be a special project or a reoccurring project, they see on a daily basis what they're being kind of assigned tasks to do with detail as well, right?
That's right. Yeah. So kind of how this is laid out is an electronic whiteboard. So Jane is one of my operations managers, and these are the different cleaners or the teams that she's responsible for. So she has a light duty team, a project team, and it's your name and culture, right? These are just our examples for the demo world. Maybe you have certain cleaners that they go by themselves. So Alfred is typically the Lone Ranger. Jamie, she's a day porter. And each of the plaques, and they're color coded to the people that's responsible for them. The plaque is telling me the service I'm performing at the property I'm performing it at, and how many hours that I have to get it completed. Now, within that service, I can also create a checklist. That's basically like your task list. And they can actually timestamp those as they're completing them. For this example, I've got a few that actually have a time-based scheduling, and some that actually report to my office in the mornings. It's not so important that I'm setting them a particular schedule because I see them every single day. Where Alfred, he's more of a direct report. At 5 o'clock, I'm expecting him to show up. Now, if he's not clogged in to this ticket, within, I believe it's 15 minutes, then an absentee notification would go out to Jane saying, hey, Alfred's not here. It's 5:15. He's not clocked into this ticket yet. So kind of get the ball rolling. And that absentee notification is a new functionality that's being rolled out for Aspire because it's extremely needed for those direct reports.
No, absolutely. I remember clients, you walk in and have you workload the space? Have you done all this? And yes. And the variable that always throws everyone off is, let's just say you have a team of 500 or a team of 100 or a team of 1,000, on average, you're going to have 5% out, whether there's a great football game the night before or somebody's sick or, they just quit. So I think that functionality there alone is do you have the ability now that manager sees that's, Jim has it clocked in. Do they have the ability to call it audit and say, I've got some extra resources here that I could pull in and you rearrange the schedule real time, or is it more just of a notification at this point?
Yeah, if you needed to rearrange the schedule, it's just a drag and drop. So if I needed to make a difference, this add-on team's not going to be here for the day. So instead, the project team's going to do this work on Friday. I'm just going to change where it's at.
Well,
and it's
you're making me want to
the
start a contract cleaning business with this ease of the software. I might rethink my career in the business of cleaning. So this is beautiful. Keep going. I love it. So the scheduling we talked about. So we talked about estimating. We got the CRM piece of it. I'm sure you can do marketing pieces based on roles and things like that. We estimated. We talked about scheduling. Now touch on purchasing, because purchasing is always a weird one, because, you know, as a distributor rep, you know, hell, we like to see orders that are errors in the high end. But how do you guys, like, if I got a floor crew that's going to do a floor, we're going to do something. How do you control purchasing? How do you better manage purchasing? Let's put it that way.
Yeah, so that again is all going back to that original estimate. So when I've measured, I know how many square feet, I know how many chemicals or I actually am going to need at the opportunity when I put it together. Then it's going to flow into this purchasing assistant. And you can slice and dice this information several different ways all throughout Aspire. We haven't really touched on it. There's these 4 buttons: the filter, display, sort, and group. We call those our advanced search options. So if you like to purchase by property, then you absolutely could rearrange this data a little bit different. I'll kind of show you what I mean by that. But right now I can see this grouped up by the different item types. So I know I have can liners. Some of these I've just been very generic for demo purposes, but
Sure.
It's the items from the estimate. So it's very specific, then that's how it's going to be down here, right? The can liner is a little bit more specific than just the carpet cleaner. It tells me how many ounces that I need per property from that original estimate. I can order these all together, so I can make one big bulk purchase, and then I can allocate them from my inventory in a couple different ways. If it's something that the cleaner has responsibility, we see it more for like a project team, again, that might actually show up to a warehouse or an office in the morning. Maybe they're taking chemicals as they go. And when they do that, they can then code it on the mobile device how many they picked up and they've taken. Maybe instead you're just taking this directly to the Bell Corporate Center or the Hilton. So from here, I can allocate it from my inventory and code it to that property.
So you're tracking down to the property level where those I'll call them assets, or those products are going into. And even the gray area of purchasing, people forget things. They run to Home Depot and grab it. I'm saying you guys can put limits or controls around, these are the products that we've agreed as a company standard. Because that's a big thing I see within contract cleaners too, is, they'll forget about something and they'll buy a lesser degree product. And that, again, going back to perception, the product they were trained on, someone from the executive level or the field level have chosen a specific product because of a reason. It all goes out the window because someone, decided to order sideways. So does this put some controls in place where even if you don't have a purchasing agent, you kind of have a quasi purchasing agent through the software?
Yeah, it does. And, with that original estimate, you can be very specific with how you're naming these items. Again, this is just my demo. So it's your item list. It's what you're offering to your clients. But you could also put in specific estimating notes of where you want to purchase it from. You've already sourced it. You already have a deal out with where you're getting these can liners. So that estimating note of that distributor could be listed here as well. So could be a lot of visibility. Now, as far as the advanced searches, just to kind of show you an example, I can just delete this group of my items. And instead, same information, but I want to look at it at a property level. So all throughout Aspire, you have these advanced searches. Now I'm seeing it by a property. I can group them up. I could even do a second group here. So maybe I wanted to see property and then the item.
Yeah. And the beauty there is you see anomalies, you see spikes in product usage that maybe shouldn't be there, and you got a question: where's that $100 pellet floor finish disappearing to? Maybe it's only 1 or 2 or 3 a month, but that's still real profit, right, for that company.
Right. Yeah, and you're putting process in place to actually be able to control it.
Nice. Okay, so we got the purchasing. Now, perception, going back to perception again, we're approaching the hour cutoff, but the site audit, explain a little more what you got there, because there's a lot of solutions out there on the site audit piece that, aren't a piece, they're their own separate entity, but give me a little bit of overview of the site audit, what you guys have going on there.
Yeah, so I'm going to jump back into that property we were at, that railroad exchange. And the site audit is created from the property level. It can be created on a mobile device or a tablet, a laptop, whatever you're actually walking your property with. And within this site audit, I can create a brand new one. Just to give you an example of one, though, I'm going to jump in. Now, a lot of this site audit is created, again, during implementation. So we're starting here with this example of categories. And within each of these categories, I'm giving it a score. Now, the score might be a 1 through 10. It might be a thumbs up, thumbs down. It might be a red light, green light, yellow light. What does it look like today? Underneath the categories as well, I'm adding pictures and comments of what I've seen while I'm there. I'm able to, let's look at the details of this one. Add particular tags. And this is a kind of extreme picture, but makes it for more exciting demos.
You just took over the property. It's a brand new account. We just taken over. That's
yep. Yeah, so I can have tags, what do I say frequently? Well, these are things that I say frequently. So when I'm creating this site audit, I don't have to type it in as I go. I'm just looking at a drop down of all of these different tags of things that I say frequently, and I'm selecting it. Or maybe, and that's kind of what I had this test 1, 2, 3 for, was I was walking this site. This is not normal, right? This is not what I see frequently. So I typed in something specific for just this time.
No, this is wonderful. I think the whole package here is just it's really great. I'm not saying that you guys are on the show, but this is something that's needed in the industry, because all these packages are out there in various forms or formats, but not in a consistent kind of everything kind of tying into everything. So hats off to you guys on this, and saying you could probably look at data, 15 different ways if you wanted to. If you had to close up and kind of sum up things in a nutshell, I guess your real ask is, I would say, based on what I see, because this has been an eye opener for me, but your real ask is just, you probably get, sit down with someone, potential customers, maybe hit that glass ceiling, or maybe someone who's operationally, there, but they're really looking to take it to the next level, or even someone that says, I'm getting into this business. Quite honestly, if I was someone getting into this business, I think the biggest scale you get right off the bat is just putting software in places like this versus, realizing 2 years down the road that you're growing so quick that you've got to go backwards and do all this baseline work. But I guess my question is, if you had to say something to the listeners out there that says, I'm raising my hand, I'd like to learn more. What are the things that you think you'd like to get across in, say, 30 seconds or less? And I'll let any one of you guys jump on that. If you all want 3 jump on that, that's fine as well.
For me, the main thing I would want to point out is, do you need a full-time employee that's not going to call out sick, that's going to always be there and give you reliable information when you need it most, which is in the moment? Then you should probably give us a call or check out our website, which is yourspire.com.
And I will add to that, Chris, I don't think it's just one employee. Quite honestly, what I saw here is probably about 3 to 4 employees in one package. So I will add that commentary to it. What about you, Mark? What would you have to say to clients out there that are really kind of thinking, yeah, maybe not?
I would really ask them to take a look at what their client base looks for, and that's transparency of data, transparency of information, and that's what Aspire gives you. The ability to concisely pull all your data together under one roof, under one hood, so to speak. The power of that is infinite as it relates to operational efficiency and how well you can go out and take care of your client, spend more time with your end-use client versus spending it on manual processes, manual paperwork, manual bids. All those things that you're doing right now that are in a manual state are taking time away from your actual customer, which is where we should be focused. And that's the beauty of a system like Aspire, is to pull all that data and information under one platform.
Well said. And Tabitha, great demo, and I'll wrap it up with you. But based on your experience, based on the hundreds of demos you've probably done, your recent win, so congratulations on the big win you guys had, but what would you have to say in a nutshell that you would like to really get across to listeners saying, hey, listen, if this is worth a 30-minute call to us to discuss?
Yeah, we usually joke that the best time to implement software was yesterday, and the next best time is today. It's not easy to go through implementation, but what's your goal as a company? Where do you see yourself? What type of visibility do you need? What type of communication tools? It's all user role based. So what's important to you when you first get to work at the beginning of the day, right? Do you have 1,000 sticky notes laying around of different to-do lists, different goals you're trying to achieve, or could you just log into a software that has your dashboards, has your tasks, all of your appointments all together? I always go back to the Franken-system because it built your business this far, so it's obviously been successful. But if you could have a perfect world, right, where everything was talking and you didn't have the gaps in between, why wouldn't you give it a shot?
No, absolutely. Well said as well. And I'll add to that as well, as I think, every company out there that doesn't have technology in place is going through pain, right? They're all going through pain. They may have gotten numb to that pain, but they're all going through pain, and they're all thinking that, how can I make this simpler? And I think that's what I would urge the listeners as well to take a look at, because if you're going to go through pain, I think a system like this, over a 3-month period, that pain will actually lower. Over a 6-month period will lower as well. And I think I keep going back, because I think those owners that are out there that are trying to kind of back out of the business a little bit, I would encourage them to bring younger folks in to kind of help implement this, because the technology piece is in their brain. It's ready to go. The knowledge is in the owner's brain or the manager's brain. But I think you're going to go through pain, and softwares like this can overall take that pain away over a 6 to 12-month period. Why not give it a spin? So this has been very informative, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to do this with me. I'm hoping that, again, the 10,000 Sales Calls podcast, the hour we've had today, hopefully my hope from this whole podcast as we get volume is to get at least 10,000 people looking at this. In this hour we spent, you just made 10,000 sales calls, and that's the whole principle. But I'll have some show notes. I'll have the contact for you guys through LinkedIn put on there. I'll have your website as well. But if they want to reach out to, who would they reach out to if they wanted to have a demo, a virtual demo, or an on-site demo? Who would that contact be?
I would recommend that they go to our website and fill out the form, and then go through the proper channels, and we'll get that all set up.
Awesome. All right.
The other thing, Jack, too, to that, we've really just barely skimmed the surface of Aspire's capabilities, and as exciting as what we did look at, there's so much more that we can show too. So I think that's important to relay as well.
And I'll say this too, you guys, you've been around for a while. You're really pushing into the JanSan space. You had a huge win, so hats off to that one. But people have to also understand technology is not going backwards. It's only going to get better. It's only going to do innovative things. And at some point, if we have a version 2 of this podcast, I'm going to ask you the question of, how is AI getting involved with your business? Because I'm just seeing AI blowing up like crazy, and the things they can do is insane. So that'll be one of my version 2 questions I have with you guys. But I personally thank each of you for taking the time to do this. Hopefully it's worthwhile. We'll see the results come out of this. But my ask is that we'll have 10,000 people at least look at what we've done. We'll break this up into small sections and kind of let people digest it, but hopefully they'll raise their hand, and hopefully you guys will see huge success, because the system is there. It's very apparent. You've got a great system. So hats off to you guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Shaq.